Jimnah Mbaru makes final preparations for a meeting he's supposed to chair in another 15 minutes. It is a few minutes ahead of 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning, and judging from all the activities he has set out to do this day, he could do well with a 25-hour day. He sits in at least 10 boards as chair in 5 of them, is a member of another 6 organizations, and advises 4 African governments on restructuring their stock exchanges. He is chairman of the Dyer And Blair Investment Bank in Kenya and Uganda, a company he bought in 1983 and built to being the most capitalized investment bank in the country. He chairs the National Cereals and Produce Board, the Jimnah Mbaru Trust, a 750 million shilling microfinance institution supported by the Dutch government, the Africa Consulting Group, and the Nairobi Hospital. He sits in the National Economic and Social Council, the committee charged with steering the country's Vision 2030 among his memberships, and advises the governments of Botswana, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Uganda on transforming their stock exchanges among his many roles, many of them captured in his CV that is pages long. Yet he describes himself in relatively few words.
I am an entrepreneur. I like to create things. I like to create institutions. I like to create new companies. Those are the companies where I get involved in. I like to transform them, and modernize them.
In terms of wealth, he is wealthy. Besides owning Dyer And Blair Investment Bank, estimated to be worth close to 2 billion shillings, he is a member of the Transcentury Group, a renowned private investment firm that started as an investment group of 29 friends and grew to perhaps the largest investment firm in the country, running a portfolio estimated at close to 10 billion shillings. Among their interests include East African Cables, Rift Valley Railways Corporation, Kenya Power and Lighting Company, and most recently Shell assets in Kenya, where it is in the final process of acquisition in a deal being brokered by private equity firm Helios, where Transcentury is represented and vital. Yet he says that money has never been a driving force.
And I have never believed in money. I think most people who run big organizations or build big organizations have dreams and ideas in their mind. And in the process of building or, achieving their dreams, maybe money comes along the way.
Jimnah was born 63 years ago, March 18, 1947, in a village in Kangema, Muranga, where he says he grew up herding cows and goats and wore his first pair of shoes when he got to Form 1 in Kirogo Secondary School. Throughout this time, he did not know what he wanted his life to turn out to be, but his mother was sure not going to let him fail.
My mother used to emphasize the importance of education. Every day my mother used to read the newspaper called Kirinyaga. That's before independence.
Indeed, while he says that he has admired many people in his life, many of them passed on, his mother remains a shining light.
My mother pushed me very hard, and my mother did not care about her improvisement. She didn't wanted me to move forward, and she was a great supporter.
Variously described as the godfather of investment banking in Kenya or Kenyan's Warren Buffett, Jimnah Mbaru says that his investment skills were honed in university as a second-year student when he first bought stocks. It is also at this time that he mapped out how he wanted his life to be.
I had planned that I would spend about 10 years in the civil service. Then I would spend another 10 years in the private sector. Now I think I've been in the private sector for about 30 years. Then I would have spent the rest of my life maybe in trying politics.
His first 10 years after university was spent in government. He was employed as District Trade Development Officer in 1971 and rose to become Assistant Director of Industries by 1980 when he left for the private sector. In government, he got a chance to travel around the world, further his education, and build contacts for his next phase, that will be the private sector, which has also been the most challenging.
Dyer And Blair came into existence into my hands by accident. I bought it in 1983 from Kenya Commercial Bank. And it was not really the first organization I had built. I had some other institutions which I had built in 1980s. I had the Jimnah Credit Corporation, Union Bank of Kenya, and also Kenya Savings and Mortgage. So those institutions were later taken over by government, and they were merged by force to create what we call today Consolidated Bank.
This period has come with many lessons, and many of them have been painful.
I failed in many things in life. As I said, I started those 3 institutions, and they were taken over by government. Although they were taken over by government, I always blame myself because I think I should have been wiser. I should have understood the political environment. I should probably have not expanded as fast as I did, and maybe I should have focused only on one institution. So I regard it as a failure.
Without the setbacks, he says he will be running a pan-African bank. All the same, his fortunes seemed to come back when he was first elected chairman of the Nairobi Stock Exchange in 1992, and he knew what he wanted to do to transform it. Indeed, he regards the privilege to chair the NSE during its transformation from the open outcry system to the board, then the automated system, and now wide area network as one of his successes, having planned what he wanted to see the NSE become over his years of investment there.
Everything was planned, was in my mind, and that was my dream. I did not achieve everything I wanted to achieve.
Having first trained in commerce, Mbaru is also a trained lawyer and an author, and it is difficult to compress his achievements in one television feature. He says he wants to impart knowledge in a university as he does not believe anyone should die with such wealth of information. But in all,
I want you to say that Jimnah Mbaru was a simple person. He tried his best in this world.
Jimnah Mbaru married at 35, late according to him, as he has had to invest time, energy and resources in his work, and has 2 children who he says inspire him today. Samuel Kantai, KTN, for Sunday Night.